Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Monitor. Last time we finished up the requester task here to create this requester to grab information from the RSS. Now we can move on to the next portion of the feed parser, the part that will actually parse the data that the requester gets. Now, in doing so, the first step is actually going to be to kind of reuse this and consider how we're going to use that within the class and what we're going to do for testing. So, to demonstrate what I'm talking about, if we were to create the feed parser class, and then inside we have a constructor here, and we're going to have like a parse function, right? And let's say the parse function is intended to return just like a dictionary for now, right? So what this is going to have to do is this is going to have to come in and say self.requester.get data, right? And then it's going to parse and then return. So that would mean that in here we would have to say self.requester or somewhere equals requester, right? Simple enough. And then we pass it in, right? So depending on how we're doing it, if the feed parser is meant to parse a single feed, then the URL would get passed in here, and then we pass that along. Now, if it was meant to parse multiple feeds, well then it would end up having to basically get a new requester or reset the requester whenever that's going to happen. Not too worried about that. That's going to be a kind of a design choice that we'll end up having to make kind of at some point. But for now, at least, we're just going to be worried about parsing a single feed, and then we'll make some adaptations in the future. So we're going to go with kind of the route that a feed parser parses a specific feed. Now, here's the problem with this, though. So let's say we go to start testing it. So we want to test, okay, does the parse function work? Well, we're going to have to give it a URL. It's going to have to make a call, and that is going to be significantly slower. What we really want to be able to do is give kind of known data. The data is also going to switch, right? It's going to be different every time we call it, as long as the RSS feed gets updated. So what we're going to really want to do is have fake data that's passed in here. And the best way to do that is to also have in here, and you can do it, is to have the requester here get passed in, right? And then in here you can say if requester, if it's none, if not, self.requester, and you probably use a ternary, or else something like that, or the equivalent self.requester equals requester otherwise it's just requester. Now this introduces kind of another thing related to the URL. So if we're passing in the URL for this, should we just always pass in the requester? Right, so if let's say we pass in a requester and a URL, well, then we're using this requester, we're not using the URL. So what if we pass an URL and then, then we're kind of reconstructing it. So we could say that we'd always want to pass in this requester, which I think is a fine choice. In this case, though, how are we going to typically use this? For the most part, we're going to create a feed parser, and we could, create a requester out here with the URL. So we could do that if we wanted to. The other option is to say that, well, normally, we don't need to worry about it. We're only using this for testing purposes. And this is fine, but then that can obviously get confusing of, well, why are you using one and not the other? So I think what we're going to end up doing is possibly even pulling out the URL from the constructor here. We might end up moving into there, and then we don't actually have to worry about this. But for now, it doesn't really matter, because to get this done, to do the actual testing, we need to create a fake requester. So that's what we're going to end up doing here. So let's get started. And the first thing I'm going to actually want to do is I'm going to rename this. I'm going to name it RSS requester, so it's more obvious what's going on here. And then in that case, I also have to rename these. And I'm going to rename this one. And then, see, refactored this, which is nice. And then, so in here, this is now also RSS. And basically, now I don't really care about the variable name. Like, I don't really care about this requester. I think that's honestly fine. Just want to make sure all the classes are updated properly. And those all look to be good. All right, so now that those are all good, and we renamed all the files, right, which come in these adds and deletes, which will change, I think, to renames once we commit them. But let's first run them. So Python, well, first env script activate Python RSS requester function. All right, so all the tests pass. Let's do git add. Check it out. See, now we have two renames, and there's also then these edits in there. And so we'll say git commit -m renamed requester to RSS requester. Cool. All right. So now that we've done that, we're going to create a test version of this. And so basically we need a fake RSS requester. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to copy RSS requester. Now unfortunately now it's not by any of its named things, but that's fine. We're going to end up switching up the kind of testing to declutter things in the future. So here we have RSS requester. We're going to rename this to fake. We're not going to need this get anymore because this doesn't make calls. And we also don't need to worry about saving the URL for the moment. I mean, we could consider if we want to for different tests using the URL for things, but at least for now, this is just going to return one set of RSS data. So we basically need to figure out, so now remember the decode returns it into a string. So that's basically what we're returning here. All right, so this is basically what we have here. and we just had to decide kind of what string we want to return. So I'm going to come over into the feed data, copy this, and then come over here, and I'm just going to take a quick copy of, let's go the first 3 items here. What do we get? Well, the first 4. And then if we come down, autumn, just closes out item, closes out channel, closes out this. Alright, so I'm just pasting all that in there. Now, one thing that's not very nice is that it copied it like this, with terrible indentations. So let me just quickly kind of do check out some indenting here. That one's indented. Name. iTunes owner. Double indent these. I'm just gonna, since there's not a ton of it, I'm just gonna indent these real quick. Alright, and then we have items. And this is, so all of this is under, everything is under channel, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So I'm actually gonna come in here. Let me just, so I'm holding Control Alt. And that allows me in here to highlight all these and indent those as one. And we have item, and the same thing. So now I'm going to come down. There's some stuff with the encoding. At least for now, I'm just going to indent all of these. And then I'm hoping these are all the same size. So I should just be able to go boom. And then come down again. And indent those. Oh, and one more. Alright, cool. Now, let me just fix all these indents. Here. There. And there. Okay, and up here. Alright, so I could put this all in a file, but then I'd have to do a file read, and that would also be slow over the test. Well, I could just, keep this kind of as first-party data, keep it in string, and return that string. The one thing I am going to do is I'm going to remove a bunch of the data that I don't think I'm going to end up caring about. So, let's see. I don't care. I'm not going to care about any of that. I'll keep the MP3 URL. I'll keep the duration. Summary, subtitle. Looks like summaries and subtitles, and that'll. Looks like this is. I'm gonna get rid of the summary and the subtitle. I'm gonna get rid of the. It's interesting. When I look at the author. The author is always the same for the channel. I'm gonna do a quick double check. So let me take. Let's do. So we have a cinephobe in there. So let's take this one, and we'll switch back over, and check this out real quick. Who is the author? Yeah, so the author is different. So in here, instead of Dan Lebetard, this author is matching the author of the channel itself. So that's interesting. And so in that case, I'm not going to keep it because I don't really care about it then. So I'm going to get rid of the author. Subtitle, summary, episode type, publishing date, I'll keep description, title. Yeah, that's probably good. what did I do in the prototype? Title, description, publishing date, duration. So those are the ones I ended up keeping. So it's a nice, I guess, double check there. So let's get rid of all this and that. And then we'll do the same thing up here. Get rid of all this iTunes information, keep the duration, get rid of that. And then we'll get rid of this information. Like if I was doing something, if I was coding this for someone who cared about, like, oh, have they changed this or that, like, then I'm gonna keep that, but not my own purposes. All right. Keep the title. I'll keep the Atom link. So what was I doing in the test? What was I looking at? I was looking at the channel owner email, the channel, the Atom link, iTunes author description. So I'll keep this. I'll get rid of the image. Don't care. Explicit. Don't care. Don't care. Subtitle. I'll keep the author. I have the description, so I don't care about the summary. I care about encoding. Keep that. Channel, iTunes owner. What was I doing for the URL? Channel, iTunes author. Oh, the Atom link. Yeah. So I have this newsfeed one. This matches this one. I'm just gonna get rid of. I'm just gonna get rid of this linker. All right. So we got this title language. So it's just like a subset of the data that might be useful for the testing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a string. And then I'm going to move it into this class. And we'll say here, raw RSS data is that. And then, so now what we're going to do is we're going to return fake RSS data dot RSS data. Cool. Now we have a fake. And so if we were doing some testing stuff, right? And then we said from fake RSS requester, import fake RSS requester as fake. And then we'll say R equals fake. We have to give it a URL. So just give it an empty URL. And we'll do r.getData. Right, and then we get that whole thing as a nice kind of, big string. And then so the other way I could kind of test it real quick if I wanted to is I could come in here. And instead of using this real one, so let's come in, let's comment this out, and we'll say from fake import fake, and we'll do self.requester. I think I kept all that important information, so. So now, let us run this, and let's see, it should still pass, right? Nope, it failed. So failed line 36. So from string, the result of the requester. So there's an issue with the data. It says it's not well formed. Not well formed, invalid token. I wonder, let's see. Everything have an opening and closing tag. Closure. Update. Description. Title. All the items. Update. Titles. Description. Updates. The other thing we're gonna have to consider is this iTunes thing is gonna be wrong. I'm gonna have to sub that in, but I wonder if that could be an issue. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try something. I don't think this will work, but let's find out. Unbound prefix. I wonder if it's this atom. I mean, it changed it. Not well formed, invalid token. Just gonna start messing with things now. Yeah, it doesn't like any of this. Well, why don't we do this then? So we will, let's come in here and we'll take this back out and we'll say width and so we're just going to write it out to a file. Oh, now why is it failing? Oh, so the right is failing. So it didn't create the test file. I don't have to create it. Just don't put anything in it. Alright, well then fine. We will, instead of doing that, we'll just print it. I want to be like that. Print result. And we're just going to do the first 1,000 characters because it's massive. Okay, so I'm going to need a bit more, but interestingly, so it's, alright, so let's go 2000. Okay, so we're still there. So we'll just say 10,000. And this got us to the rule of two we were using on content encoding. So there's not a lot left after it. So I'll just give it another 1,000. Okay, so we went from there up to I believe here. I don't think there's any other. Right. And then we'll come in here. Let's do this. Raw RSS data. Alright, for now I'm just going to delete it. Alright, and let's see if now it works. I probably need to close it. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Cool. So now it passed. So now let's cut out a bunch of crap. So we're going to come back in, and we said we don't care about any of these except the duration until we get to, what was it that we cared about? Duration, pub date, description, title, and the URL. Yes, that was this enclosure URL. Okay, so we'll keep that one in. And then get rid of this one. And then everything up to there. Okay. Go to that one, and then pub date. Let's see, still work? Cool. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to kind of clean this up real quick until it doesn't work. And then we'll know what some of the issues are. But interestingly, the iTunes works, which makes me think that it's making, I mean, it's working very quickly still, much quicker than if this is here, right? But it might still be making some sort of network call to resolve these iTunes links. Otherwise, I feel like it wouldn't work. Just out of curiosity, let's plug this in for one of them. So got all these. Get rid of this one. Duration. Title, description. So that's a summary. Oh, so this is the summary here. Summary, subtitle, author, episode. I just have public. Alright, cool. So now we got all that. And then we didn't care about any of this. Keep the owner. Care about the encoding. Summary. Keep the author. Subtitle, type, explicit, all that. Image, don't want that. Description. Copyright, language, title, add a link. Alright, cool. Let's make sure this still works. Okay. Now what if, let's see. What if I remove all of that? It's gonna resolve now. Yeah, so now it's saying this is an unbound prefix. And so can we change that to where's the test? I want this one. Not well formed. Oh, is it? No, it just closes. Yeah, so it looks like we're gonna have an issue due to using the XML E-tree element tree. We're gonna have an issue if we mess around with this too much. Let's change this back. I'm curious, what can I get rid of? All right. I don't think we use any of those. I mean, you don't use the Google one. Let's try it now. Yeah, it's fine. Because it only cares about these. So I don't know if that's making a call. I mean, it works very quickly. Let me just see for comparison if I run the feed unit test or something. Nah, see, look how much faster that one goes. So I feel like, I mean, if we're gonna use the XML tree, element tree in the class for the parser, we'll have to think about if we want to use that, if we want, I mean, I don't know any of the parsing that we're going to do is going to be significantly faster, but we could think about that. So that'll be an interesting thing. I'll think about that and then I'll come back with a decision there. But at least for now, let's just run all the tests. Yeah, see, I mean, that's significantly slower. So at least the fake one does speed that up. So, I mean, that's the reason we're doing it in the first place. Oh, actually, the other thing before I end this, the other thing I want to do. Nah, I guess this is actually what I would want it. This is what I want it to be. Put this back here. And that's there. Alright, that's all good then. Alright, and one last verification, make sure it's working. So this at least does substitute in the fake data there, right? And we get a significant difference in the real runs and the more variable. We're getting a little bit more solid result here. We'll have to consider, now this is a functional test, so it's fine that we use this, but we'll have to consider whether in the, if we want to create a, for the parsing itself, if we want to create a separate class from the feed parser, that we could also have a fake in. So when we're doing the kind of the feed parsing, I guess more so essentially in the bundling portion of it, if that's what we want to do there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this in progress, and this commit we'll be working on. Created fake RSS requester. And we'll tag this one. Hit tag 13. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna think about what I want to do next. Now that I kind of have some of the information on what that other piece is doing, whether we want to kind of have the parser also be a separate class, and then like it's kind of labeled here, and then the packaging will be what the feed parser does, and we'll call out to these two, and these two can be fakes. In the general feed parser, we will unit test or we'll functional test the parser, and then we can unit test the whole feed parser as something that, given a fake requester and a fake parser, packages up the results properly. And so basically the feed parser really, its purpose is to do the packaging and return the feed data given the parser and requester. And then the parser can always use the fake requester to do its job, to speed up those functional tests as well. Yeah, I mean, I'll think about that. I'll think about kind of the test design around this, and we'll see. So that's what we'll work on next time. So until then, see you.